Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer is retired U.S. Army and senior fellow with the London Center for Policy Research. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So first of all, you heard that sound right there from Crocker. If not Russia and if not Iran, who then do we team up with to defeat ISIS?
Well, the ambassador makes the point spot on. Look, what we have now is essentially what we're calling the Damascus Pact. It's the analog of the old Warsaw Pact, and what we've proposed, Heather, is exactly what defeated the Warsaw Pact and Arab NATO. We've met with Chairman Ed Royce, we've met with John McCain in the Senate, and we recognize exactly what Ambassador Crocker is saying. We've got to pick a side. We've got to be effective in actually countering the new threat we see developing with the Iranians and with the Russians. And let me be clear here, the Russians' interest in this is trying to gain 60% control of world oil. That's what they're after. We know it. So I think we have to be clear-eyed about this. We have to understand that an alliance with the Arabs would not be perfect, but it is something that we have to look at very carefully. And obviously, today's hearings are about strategy. And I agree with General Keane. He said earlier in one of the earlier sound bites that we don't have a global comprehensive counterterrorist strategy. This issue must be part of our thinking.
Yeah, and that global threat, on that point, I saw some interesting numbers that people at home should hear. That ISIS killed 1,600 people in 83 attacks in 20 countries in just 18 months.
Right.
So when you think about those numbers globally, we have Paris, 129 dead, Russia, the plane, 224 dead. How do we stop their outreach as it goes across the world?
First off, this is no junior varsity. We have to get over that preconceived notion of the White House. Look, General Joe Dunford came into the Pentagon. He did a couple of things when he came in. First, as chairman of the Joint Chiefs, first thing he did, obviously, is I think he's increased the ops tempo of the current strategy. He's actually increased the number of sorties. They've actually gone after economic centers of gravity. They've blown up banks. They've stopped the oil from flowing in. Heather, we've seen a cut in jihadi pay to the ISIS folks. It's been effective. Secondly, to General Keene's point, General Dunford has now ordered a review of the strategy. What's working, what's not. And most importantly, to Ambassador Crocker's point, we have to look at this issue as a global issue. We have been treating the ISIS threat as a local issue. And as you said, in those numbers, it shows ISIS is global. So therefore, if we're going to fight a global threat, we must accept on its face, it's a global threat. And I think that's the biggest thing the Pentagon is now focusing on, is that we cannot treat this as only Iraq, only Syria. We have to look at this as a global issue, but we cannot neglect what we have to do on the ground in Syria and Iraq as well.
Yeah, but you and I spoke directly after the President's State of the Union address, and in that he made a point of saying that fighting ISIS would be our #1 priority, but also some people that have stated that fighting it is equated to World War III, that is overstating it.
Look, we have to recognize that 1930 Germany was seen as a backwater country, but within 10 years, Heather, Adolf Hitler had taken it to a world domination. So we have to understand, if we don't look at the threat realistically, as you point out, over the past 18 months, there's been an upward graph showing ISIS growing. We have to accept that. To not accept that is insane. So therefore, we have to accept if we don't hit it now, look at it as a global threat, we will see the potential for it growing into something bigger. And as Ambassador Crocker said, if we don't deal with this, ISIS will continue to pull out of the out of the Sunni elements to become more stronger and face off against the Shia, which are the Iranians and Syrians. So we have to take this seriously now. If we don't, we will see a rise of ISIS continue. Yeah. We can take care of this. We should.
And in terms of those ISIS militants, the numbers anywhere between 20,000 to 32,000 and growing.
Yes, ma'am.
Colonel Shaffer, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Always good to be on.